Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at Robinhood and Fidelity, two of my favorite brokerages, and I want to show you why Robinhood is better for overnight trading and understanding where the market is going as a whole. One of my favorite ETFs is VOO, Vanguard, the S&P 500 Index Fund. As we can see, the current price right now is $557.64. What's really helpful about this software that Robinhood has is they are one of the only platforms that has overnight trading. Now we can see that we can actually be looking at where this price is relative to overnight price and where it's been going throughout the day. You know, as we go through this, we can see the price changes and we can see as the market closes right here at 1 p.m. Pacific time, it was at 556.26. As we go on from that point, we can see it starts going into after hours and now we are in the overnight portion of it, right? So at 5 p.m. we go into overnight and we can actually trade full shares of this as long as the price hits the strike price. I'll get into that in another video. The reason I want to talk about this is we can understand where the market is going. So we can look on the max, we can look at the 5-year, but what's really helpful is the 1 day. We can look up any ETF. Now, if we go to Fidelity, I'm going to show you that right now. It's very different. Now that we are in Fidelity, we can see the overall web page of Fidelity is different than Robinhood. Remember, overnight sessions for Robinhood was 557.64. We're currently sitting at 556.30. So it's an old price. So we don't have the updated price of what it's like on VOO, which is Vanguard's S&P 500 index. What I do like about Fidelity's website is the detailed quotes that it offers you that Robinhood doesn't. We're going to compare the both. We're not going to get too much into this. The first thing we can talk about here is the open price. Notice it was at 557.37. The previous close, you can see the date and when that was at 556.30. We can see the gross expense ratio at 0.03%. We can see the net assets under value. We're at a amazing 583.7 billion. So quite a large amount in net assets. We can go through all the way to the bottom of this. We can see what the 30-day SEC yield was 1.17%. We can see the tracking error that doesn't even offer that information, but it does have it. Shares outstanding, 1.1 billion. Primary exchange, New York Stock Exchange, and so forth. As we go down here, we can see the top 10 holdings. We can actually go more into that if we want in just a second. We can look at the chart. Where has this chart been going? We can look at, okay, what are the analysis of Morningstar? What have they rated it? And so forth with this. We can look at the fund portfolio, the top 3 holdings, the top country, which is the United States, top capitalization, and the top sector. We can scroll down. How is it performing? We can see the returns. Obviously, the S&P recently has been doing very well. We're sitting at 24.92% at the 1 year, and S&P 500 is at 25.02. So we can see the life of the fund on average is around anywhere from 10 to 12%, depending on the year we're looking at. We can see a couple of more things down here. We can see the short interest. So it's real nice to look at the fund from more, I would say, detailed perspective on Fidelity. It just gives you more. We can look at the top 10 holdings and click on that right now so you guys can take a look. So we can look at all of the top 10 holdings here, which expands here into the 505 holdings. We can see every single company that is listed on here, and we can see the weight that it's listed. The biggest one here are Apple and Nvidia, as we can see at 7.60% for Apple, and then Nvidia is right next to it at 6.61%. And we can go all the way to the very bottom here and see what companies are actually in this ETFs. It's something to keep in mind when you're shopping around for ETFs, especially for retirement or just wanting to generate wealth for yourself. Keep this in mind when you're looking for stuff. It's a good tool to have. We're going to jump back into Fidelity's main web page right now. So that was just a quick overview. Let's go back to Robinhood to show you one last thing. So now that we're back on Robinhood, it's pretty straightforward. As we can see, what was this fund tracking? The number of holdings, the inception date, what are the technology, the consumers, the communications and all that, utilities, basic materials, right? Financial services, what sectors are they in? And then we can also see the top 10 holdings like that. We can see, all of the other things relative to this fund, right? Like the AUM, price to earnings ratios on here, PE ratio is what we call it for. The 30-day yield is right there. So a lot of good information, and you can keep coming down here. And at the very bottom, it's the average annual return return. What is this thing actually returning? As we can see right here, it's 24.98%, and 3-year, it's the same as Fidelity. So both are good. I just love the overnight trading, but if you want to do more in-depth analysis, Fidelity is really great. Now, something I want to show you guys now is Fidelity and Robinhood are excellent, and I love these funds, and I want to show you the difference on a different fund right now that tracks the S&P 500. So this is a fund that I've been looking at closer. It's called SPLG. Now, this is exactly the same as what was going on in VOO, which is the S&P 500 ETF over there. But there is one critical difference, and I'm going to show you that as we come down here. Remember that expense ratio over there in Vanguard VOO? The expense ratio is a little different here at 0.02%. The expense ratio for VOO is 0.03%. I'll let you do the math on that. But the AUM is still healthy. We're sitting in the billions, not as big. It's 58.05 billion. But the other thing that I do like about this fund is I love the price per share. Price per share matters to me. I just like to own a full share. It's just my preference. But statistically speaking, it doesn't really matter. You can buy fractional shares. You'll still get the same return. So when comparing this to VOO, it just depends on the brand that you're wanting, and also to save a bit on the expense ratio. Now we're going to jump into Fidelity right now. Now that we're on Fidelity, we can see similar information as to VOO, right? Top 10 holdings, detailed quote. We can scroll down here and see more of the information, right? We can see the chart. We can see what the fund has been looking like. Where are the holdings? The top country, obviously it's still the United States. We can see Morningstar's overview, and we can also look at what other people are saying about this. We can come down here and see any of the past events, and obviously there's just some fine print. We're not going to look at that. It's nice because we have information on this, and the only benefit I see to holding this fund versus VOO is that expense ratio sitting right here at 0.02%, and the price per share is pretty cheap, but it's also nice. But the big thing that I'm just wanting to talk to you guys about today is notice the interface difference between Robinhood and Fidelity. You need both, in my opinion, if you want to be a well-rounded investor. Let me know if you have any questions about this, or if you want to talk more in depth about Fidelity or Robinhood. Please drop those comments down below. As always, thank you for supporting the channel. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.